Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
Not the Steele and Vance Show, UnSpun.
That's why you got my beachy hair today. I was so busy, I don't even have time to do my hair.
I love it. Curly. For those who are listening, you got the curly cues going on there. Nice.
This is what the au natural ends up looking like. No, yeah, Steele and Vance, it's been announced. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a tough secret.
Tell us what's going on.
Let's be honest with the people. I did tell you before the announcement because, we're tight that way. What's going on? It's, Linda Steele and I, really the story goes, we got together last December. Linda took me out for dinner, just wanted to pick my brain about what I was doing, what I'm doing with you, what I was writing with the Orca and filling in and the stuff. And she's like, I need an outlet. I want to do something. And I'm like, well, why don't we do something? So we thought about doing a podcast, which you and I talked about. Got Linda to do a column for the Orca, which was so great. And hopefully that's coming back. We'll see. We'll see. But we were just going to do a podcast. And then like not that long ago, the people at Czech TV, so Czech Media, the people would be like, oh, the Vancouver Island station. Yeah. So they're expanding into the Lower Mainland and broadening their footprint and looking to Linda and I to help with that. And it's a really cool station because you see Don Taylor and Rick Dollywall there doing their show. Like anytime I can work with Don Taylor, I'm all in. But they're owned by the employees. So people are like, oh, the media. It's like, actually, yeah, this is the media. Like there's no big corp. It's actually, they took over, I think it was 9 years ago, or was it 10 years ago, that station was going to be shut down. And the employees bought it for $1 and kept the lights on. And there were times where they were, taking out a loan over here to pay people over there and people weren't taking it. Like it's a really cool story. So Linda and I joining that team felt right. And between you and I and our listener or our viewer, Linda and I actually own the show. So we get to say and do whatever we want, carte blanche.
Oh boy.
We come out of, I know, be ready, George, because if you want to see a couple of women who don't owe anybody nothing, you know what I'm saying?
There's some BS cups of coffee coming out of there.
There might be. We were told we can do that. And it will live online as well for those who won't be able to tune in on Thursday nights at 8 for an hour. We come right out of Jeopardy. So we're in the place that Friends used to be. It's so weird.
Makes sense.
So you're going to be a guest. You're going to be a guest. You're going to have other guests. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you right now, you are.
Oh, yeah.
So, I charge a lot. Let's think about it. That's okay. We'll pay you because that's how it's going to work. We're actually going to help each other build the thing that informs people in a way that is authentic and kind of entertaining. We're going to have a hell of a lot of fun too, by the way. It's not news talk.
It's a great
it's not going to be radio and TV.
It's going to be a great
duo. I'm going to do my best to make
Linda
Steele. Thank you. I'm going to make Linda Steele swear on TV.
Because we all know behind the scenes what she's like.
Don't we? Yes, we do. Okay. So, September 8th, 8 p.m. it starts. Okay. Write it down. September 8th. So between now and then, we're getting everything on.
And as you and I know, there's never an end to possible stuff to talk about as we have today. We're going through our list. Oh my God. Because I always come into this thinking, I don't know if we have a lot to talk about today. And then you and I sit down in the pre-show and we're like, oh my God, I don't think we have enough time because we all try to keep this in a half an hour. But this big story of decriminalization is the first one. We're like, okay, whoa, okay. This has been something we've been talked about a lot over the years in politics, but BC is going to be the testing ground for decriminalizing and not legalizing. People often get this confused about decriminalization and the legalization of hardcore drugs. It's not the same thing. Decriminalization is really just about who you arrest and how much they're carrying, and it's to control the people who have a problem with drugs and not to open up the floodgates to dealers and drug and criminal organizations. Although you could argue this might help them, and it also might help people. Encourage people to do more drugs because it decriminalizes it. So there's or
do it together so fewer people die. I think that's at the root of this, that the stigma associated with the drug use, because while people instantly go to the downtown east side when we talk about drug addiction and opioid crisis and death, the mass majority of the opioid deaths that are occurring right now are happening in private homes, in
Yeah.
single family
Yeah.
homes all over
Men
British
between
Columbia,
40 and 50.
right?
And and a lot of them have had injuries. They work in the construction sector, a lot of them. And of course, like anything, this is not the silver bullet to solutions. And
Correct.
pardon the pun for the next topic, but this is really this is just one part of the problem that we have related to drug addiction,
Yeah.
criminalization, all these different things. And I think that people often point to the Portugal as this method,
Model. Yeah.
the model, but they actually implemented a lot of other things, including a significant input into the healthcare system and mental health care system at the same time. I don't see that happening here simultaneously. I see one announcement about this, and a little of this, and a little of this, and then it has to be an integrated approach to be effective to have the solution to the problem that we all know exists, which is this fentanyl overdoses. We have, just drug addicts in general, people with mental health care issues who
Mental
are
health
getting into
issues.
drugs. All these things have to happen simultaneously, and that's what they did in Portugal, and that's why their data is so impressive. And I think people are going to be disappointed that this is not going to be the solution that will provide the numbers that we'd like to see go down, especially on the fentanyl overdoses.
I hope, because I agree with you. There's no one shot here to fix this. Otherwise, it would have been done already. I listen when the scientists say we have to do something, and decriminalization is one step toward just one person being saved rather than, many per day dying here in BC. Police forces as well as scientists, and now government has moved just a little bit. And I think once the unspun piece for me is, because I certainly don't know the answer here, I'd be screaming it from the rooftops, is I want to see something change.
Action.
Something.
At least
anything,
some kind of
anything.
action.
We've literally lost members of our extended family to fentanyl being laced into drug. And I mean, I want them back. I want them back. I want them back. I from my friend's son to my friend's brother. Everybody's been touched by this. And you ask the families who have been touched by this, and they will tell you, do something. And this feels like something. So we'll see. I agree with you that the mental health supports and the we don't even have enough GPs to go around in this province. So I mean, now we want to have beds for everybody who is struggling, particularly in this moment in time. So
yes,
it's very
100%.
It's very difficult, but also difficult, the news cycle, George. I mean, my goodness. I don't even know where to catch up. Is it Buffalo? Is it the church in California? Is it the elementary school, or is it the hospital in Tulsa? Like the gun violence that opens up the conversation about gun safety as opposed to gun control. For the unspun purposes, I'd like to call it gun safety, because gun control comes with the connotation that I want to take away the gun, or one wants to take away a gun from a responsible gun owner who has done the due diligence and has had all the things you have to do in Canada. But in the United States, have I told you this story before? When I first moved to Los Angeles in 1990, when I went, that was my backpacking through Europe. I moved down there and I opened up an account at Wells Fargo Bank, and they said, everyone who opens an account gets a gun.
Oh,
a free gun, like at the bank. Here you go. And I was like, no, I don't.
The irony, and then you rob the bank immediately afterwards. Thank you very much for the gun. I'd like to take another $10,000 out while I'm here. Thank you very much. It's a different. Obviously, we're not America, and we know that. And I think that there's a lot of misinformation that you see on the news in the States about Canada. Sometimes it's, how it's amazing, how it's safe up here. And other times it's like, oh no, Canada's not as good as it says it is. But I think we had a re-announcement this week from the Trudeau that there is the whole process going through federally, and we're getting more strict gun rules here. We already
have
the buyback program, there was something similar happened under Chrétien that was very controversial, and they spent billions getting nowhere on that.
Yeah, the long gun.
Yeah. So it's, I think that
unspin it for us, George.
We know it works. I think that you immediately had to. It's a smart move in order for it to, there's, because of all this misinformation about Canada, and ensure that, because we were all talking about it here, what happened in America, or what's happening, it seems like every day right now. I think the Prime Minister said he needed to reassure Canadians a little bit that we're not America, and that is ultimately a little bit of spin going on here from the Prime Minister's office and the Liberals to present that we're working towards something we already knew they're working towards.
It was
in
a
order
re-announcement
to
for
provide
sure.
comfort to Canadians that we're not America, and here's what we are doing. Of course, then it leads to, as you know, more people arguing either their things are getting too strict or it's not strict enough. And like your column, we're probably going to land in the middle somewhere on this. But I would say that Canada, the numbers though, you look at what happened in England when they would crack down after that horrible shooting in Scotland, and you saw the gun control works, but it's a question of other issues related to living in a country so vast as Canada. And
Eddie wants his gun
the
back.
dog agrees or disagrees. 2 barks is yes.
I think
1 bark is no.
But I think it's really important what you just pointed out there, because there's going to be somebody listening or watching here who is a staunch advocate of gun ownership. And I've had conversations with many, and nobody wants to argue that there are responsible gun owners. There just simply are. It's when we start getting into the mud around it, right? When we start getting into, you can't take one gun out of that, because I don't think there's a reason for rapid fire assault weapons anywhere, really. Like the fact that 18-year-old kids can buy they're literally changing how you do a tourniquet. When it comes to St. John's Ambulance in the United States, they've changed how you pack a wound based on the caliber of bullet in an AR-15.
Oh my gosh.
They're starting to talk about maybe showing the scene of carnage, because of course we never see that here, where elsewhere in the world they actually show the dead bodies to shock people.
When that stuff happens, I'm not
100%. I'm with you. I can't even watch it when it's fake. So, but these are the conversations that are having to try and jolt the people who want to push back that I need an AR-15 to hunt with. And that's what's happening in the United States right now.
They show stuff in the States and that doesn't change anything. So I think you have this significant lobbyist. At least in Canada, Kennedy-Stewart's pretty happy about this. He sent a strongly worded letter in support. When the going gets tough, Kennedy-Stewart writes a letter. He wrote a letter to the Prime Minister thanking him for this announcement. And meanwhile, in the streets of Vancouver, chaos ensues, and not about guns, but we have other stuff going on, and we have a
there have been shots fired this past week.
He thinks that the crime is not a problem in our city, as he's quoted as saying. He's kind of reversed his opinion on that, I think, and wishes he hadn't said it, but he said it. He was part of the defund police discussion at the height of that issue, and as a result of this council, I think we're seeing, and the police are winning the PR battle. When you talk about spin, the VPD in Vancouver are certainly winning the battle on the public relations side, and it's become the hottest election issue in Vancouver. And 4 years ago, it wasn't even on the radar. It wasn't even on the if you saw the polling on crime in our city, it was like way down. It wasn't even worth talking about. 4 years later,
just on that stretch of Granville Street at 4 a.m. That's the only time we really talked about it being a war zone in Vancouver. And now it's everywhere. I mean,
seems like it.
It's related.
I think it's a combination, though. You bring this up.
I was going to say it's related.
All this other stuff going on.
Smashed windows and frustrated. Windows.
Yeah,
it's the broken window syndrome that you've talked about. You've literally been talking about that since before this pandemic. It's so fascinating to me how clairvoyant you are. I kind of think you're Marty McFly, and maybe that you have a DeLorean. But I mean, okay, I wish I could time travel and go back. No, I don't, because I would still feel bad. I don't know how people claim CERB.
How big would your hair be?
Eligible for it?
How far back do we go to get your hair even bigger? I've seen some photos.
Dude, Ice Mist. I can give you some little bangs.
I've seen that.
Molly Ringwald of the Breakfast Club.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna send you a picture from the 80s. You can put it up. UnSpunpodcast.com, by the way. UnSpunpodcast.com is where you find this until the orca starts swimming again.
And you can follow us on Twitter.
Yeah. At George _Affleck. At Jody Vance. I promise I'll stop retweeting everything about stealing Vance. But I just was overwhelmed.
No, all good.
At Jody Vance, at george_Affleck, at UnSpun Podcast. This is where you find us. We did have fans chiming in on our podcast, and I want to get to this one because we were told you guys don't talk enough about Surrey.
Yeah, and I grew up in the Valley, so not well. I did live in Surrey. I lived in Langley, White Rock, South Surrey. So as a kid, so yeah, I'm very interested. Lots of stuff going on in Langley this week too, with mayoral announcements. Young guy running for mayor there,
Right.
but Surrey, obviously the craziness of what's going on at City Hall there, and Doug McCallum. Just people yelling at him, screaming at him. This is all related, sort of, I think, obviously to his issue related to being charged for criminal mischief. Is it? What is it?
Mischief.
Was mischief?
Yeah.
And that
Saying,
doesn't
saying
go to trial
somebody
until
ran
2
over
weeks.
his foot.
Yes,
Saying
two
somebody that
weeks.
ran over his foot, and that it was somebody who was anti-Surrey police, who had, come after him basically and ran
Yeah,
over his foot, and he complained about it and talked about it and reported it, and then camera footage showed that none of that happened. So now he is in the midst of this. Some people talking about whether or not he should, recuse himself or remove himself until this is resolved. And this isn't the first time we've had a mayoral
yes.
situation where there's been an issue. Do you think we'll ever find a time that when there are matters of trust or matters of confidence associated with elected officials, that there should be something, I don't know, built
Well,
in?
it's called common sense.
Right. I
Um,
know. Jesus.
he has said he's recusing himself from any further police board meetings
Right.
until after he wins the next election, which he probably will. The tweet that we got was to actually talk about about the councillors, which there's not a lot of information yet. There are a bunch of people running. There are potentially 4 people running for mayor, rumored.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I've predicted that Doug McCallum will win again. I don't want to Donald Trump, not that he's like Donald Trump, but the fact that he's all people talk about. The old adage, there's no such thing as bad PR. This guy is like all consuming and
Dominating
so
the narrative.
dominating
Yeah.
and so divisive that's a very effective tool to win an election.
Yeah.
And he will always be able to say that he did the 2 things he promised. And if his competition's a split, like it is going to be in Vancouver, so which provides Kennedy-Stewart the opportunity to win again because the right is split, you end up getting the same guy again. So I think that he's very steadfast and stubborn. Obviously, he's the old guy that yells at clouds in The Simpsons. He's like, but he is what he is, and I think that he's always kind of been like this. And there's a lot of people who love him. But I think that the people that were screaming and yelling at that's not just about the police thing and the foot running over thing. It's about a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on there. But having been in council, you have to be careful always. It's very attractive, obviously, for media to cover this, and it's good TV, it's good radio, it's good whatever. It's
Flashy
a good story,
headline.
flashy. Yeah, lots of people
what
yelling.
Now? Click. We're talking about it.
Yeah, what's the majority on that? I'd like to see some polling on this recently, to see what's going on there. But I still would put my money on McCallum winning again in Surrey for those Surrey listeners out there. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see who runs against him. If he ends up with only 1 competitor, then it'll be tough for him. But if he has 2 or 3, that's golden for him.
Splitting the vote. Yeah. October 15th, 2022 is the day that everybody municipally goes to the polls. And guess what? That's George-Affleck's birthday. It's _'s birthday, October 15th, 2020. You're going to get so many cards and letters, George.
29 again.
But we do. Right. We do love it, though, when our fans of UnSpun podcast chime in and have questions or comments or just want us to talk about something. And I know there were a lot of people that were hoping that we would speak again about the Broadway Plan, because more hearings. I mean, how many people speaking on this? I was reading through the thread, and it's like, and this person is all in, and this person is all out, and then this person is all in, and this person is all out, and this person's in this area, and here's why, and here's that. It gets so muddled and confusing. Yeah. Honestly, is there a way to sort of summarize how you, former Vancouver City Councillor George Affleck, who I wish was running for mayor, sees the Broadway? I say that every time; it makes him crazy. The Broadway Plan, like, what is it that's so triggering for some?
It's on the off-Broadway side. It's the off-Broadway show.
Okay.
I think is the main issue. There's some height issues on some of the developments. I think there's the density and this is always about, in going into where you had a community plan already set, and then you encroach on that community plan through a plan that lays on top of it. You're like, hey, we had a community plan. Now you're doing this other thing, and it's ruining our community plan. I think that's where a lot of this comes from. And you think about the Broadway, then it's going down to sixth, eighth. Broadway is like 9th Avenue in Vancouver for those who don't know. And so if you go down to 8th and 7th and 6th, you're sort of going, okay, well, that's my house now. I mean, what? I thought, I live in Kitts. Why now you're saying my house is going to be, or my condo is going to be, or my co-op is going to be impacted by the Broadway Plan? What? I thought Broadway Plan was about Broadway, the number, that one street, and it's just about the buildings on that street. And I think initially that's kind of what I thought when I voted for the process. The challenge this council has is come in so late, 2 years too late. So now it's become a political hot potato. This council, as you will see when it goes to vote on June 8th, I think it is. Oh my God. I mean, I've already heard, I saw Frances Beulah tweeting this, that there are apparently 52, I think she said, or 42 possible amendments. And that's just amendments. This council, for those who don't watch or understand what happens, you put a motion on the floor in a council. Either staff do put this report on, then you have to put a motion forward to approve the report, or you as a councillor can put your own motion forward. And then you can vote for it or against it, or like this council loves to do. And I never like doing this because I feel like I'm not an engineer. I'm not a building. I'm here to either like this thing or not like it. I never would like tweaking reports or things because on the fly in the meetings, because I feel like that's not my role. If this report's not good enough, send it back. But this council is just like amendment. They go in there, they amend it. They'll amend a part of it, and then another council will amend their amendment, and then another council will amend that amendment. So you have an amendment on an amendment, and you could just see staff going, "Okay, where are we now? What the triple amendment on the amendment?" It's just confusion, and staff walk away, I think, and they go, "We don't even know what just got approved. We now have to go back, watch the tape, say what just happened, and find out what they're actually being approved to do." It's just terrible governance by this council, and you can't even chalk it up to them being amateurs anymore. These guys have been in office for 3 years. Give me a break. If they bring 52 amendments plus on the amendments to amendments, this is incompetence at the highest level. Just vote against it if you don't like it. Have some
cojones.
How do I say?
That's what you're trying to say.
Balls without saying
cojones. That's how you say it when you're holding your hand that way.
Come on. Just vote against it if you don't like it. Suck it up.
What happens? God. Okay. What happens if they do hear you right now and go, okay, you know what? Instead of the 52 amendments, I'm just going to vote no. Does it go back to staff and they have to bring it forward again?
You can just say that.
Because this
do better, staff.
Right. It has to get done in order for the federal money.
Right? You're fine. I wouldn't worry about it. It's yes and no. I mean, I wouldn't worry too much. We talked about that last. I checked into that. It's not that's a big of an issue. They can delay. They can delay. It's not a big deal.
That's spin when they're like, no, we need to get this done because the federal government won't give us the money they promised for the Broadway.
No, it's underground. It's train stations are being built. That's already done. We did that. We put that in place when I was there. As far as the sites, the train stations are underground. There's nothing on top of them. So you can build the buildings later, though. You don't have to build the buildings. The train stations are built. It's just a question of how big should those buildings be is the ultimate question.
And I think this is really important for the people like myself that might be a bit tower averse to put towers, big 40-story towers all the way down Broadway, which in my mind feels like sometimes is the NIMBY vibe, which I'm not a NIMBY, I'm a moderate. So I'm I understand. When you say those big buildings, they are. When you say the tallest of buildings are slated to be in the business district, this is about businesses, not about housing. This is about growing the city and healthcare. So it's between Maine and Granville, right? And everybody who lives in and around Vancouver can picture Broadway between Maine and Granville. Most of us can picture it because we avoid going there unless we have to, because it's so damn busy and that's the bus routes and that's the So that's where the subway line's going to go. And we'll be able to come and go from there much more freely, easier, without all the complaints about there are bike lanes and there's nowhere to park, because we'll be able to take transit.
If I was on council, I would make the simple amendment saying this: we are cutting off anything west of Granville. We're taking that, lobbing that off the Broadway plan. It's too controversial. We still don't know what's going to happen related to the line to UBC, which will significantly change the role of Arbutus, that last station that's currently the last station, which will have a major bus loop and stuff. But if the Broadway plan gets, or if the train gets extended out to UBC, that station becomes less significant in its role. And so it changes. So it's,
and there's already a big loop out there, by the way. Like there is a pre-built bus loop, station loop at UBC that's fairly, like it's perfectly set up for this. So, I mean, it just...
Well, you wouldn't have the buses going to UBC anymore.
No, but the bus loop, the bus loop vibe, the train vibe, whatever it needs to be up there, the infrastructure is already in place that is cleared out. Nobody'd have to move a building is what I'm talking about. Nobody's going to have to blow something up.
True. The train will probably go to Westbrook Village and around to there, down west, and then over down to the beach area. That's the new district.
Down to Jericho.
It'll be a loopy-loop. Anyways, it's just, I think that lob it off, just take that off, or just tell staff, come back with the report that takes anything west of Granville out of it. That way you're not affecting
Listen
kids,
to George.
Not affecting, and then just focus on the healthcare district.
Put that in the headline of this podcast. We're 26 minutes into this podcast. We've only got a couple minutes to go, but listen to george-affleck lop off the part that is pissing people off and creating such noise around this. Lop off everything west of Granville and watch people shut up. You can revisit it, but watch it. The people that live in little neighborhoods that are concerned that all of a sudden they're going to live in the Granville Entertainment District and they didn't sign up for that. That's what's freaking people out.
Did it for
me personally, I love the idea. But I see, if you told me that the street that I live on, right, because I also live in a high density spot though, but if the street I lived on was all of a sudden going to look a lot like 25th or Cambie, you know, row houses and smart 4 or 5 story, whatever, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. I just don't want to live between 2 40-story buildings. I don't want to live in a tower, and I don't want to live right next to 2 towers, right? And if you don't mind, but if you put, which you choose, which I totally love. In my whole life of living in Vancouver, I've never lived in the downtown core, and that's why I love going there. But honestly, George, I have a fear of heights. I love a view, but when I went to Shangri-La for the first time, I was terrified to go near the windows. Just is. I know it's weird, right?
You want to jump? Is that you get that feeling you want to jump? Is that what happens?
I feel like I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall. Yeah, it's vertigo. Anyway, let's move on from this and end off with the end of session. End of session. John Horgan, end of session.
BC Ledge, it's this week. It's interesting. I mean, Kevin Falcon got a couple of weeks in there as a leader of the opposition. I would say what I think people are going to be watching for, if there is a fall session, they may not have a fall session. Quite often Liberals used to do that. They would not do sessions and just wait and then ram things through at a different session. So, I think right now Premier-Horgan's thinking about his future, and I would think that the Liberals are probably hoping that mathematically, you got to think about, we're 2 years in by the time the fall sitting comes. He's got to make a decision soon whether he's staying or going. And I think that's what I think the Liberals are hoping for, that he'll go, because right now he's tough to beat. If there's an election, and even in 2 years, I mean, the BC Museum, the Museum of BC, and all that aside, that's a million years away from the election. That by then, and it probably, well, they may not rescind it. I don't know. We'll see. They kind of petered off already. But I think that
I was going to ask about it today, but there's nothing new. Yeah,
it's going to be tough to beat.
Riddle me this: if John Horgan says, you know what, this second round of cancer and he's fine now, healthy now, he's doing great. But if he decides, you know what, that was enough of a freak, I don't need to do this anymore, I'm going to step away from politics. Just if. Who would then take? Would it be Mike Farnworth? Would it be Adrian Dix? Like who would step up into that position
for the
NDP?
Who knows?
Brad, maybe, yeah. Or maybe Farnworth goes for Premier, and Brad West goes for Solicitor General.
It's EB's game, I think, at this point.
EB now? Yeah.
I would say,
yes.
Although
he's
he may
got
lose
2
his
small
own
children
speech.
too.
Yeah. It's anybody's game. I think, I think that they need the time, though, to get somebody in there if they're going to do it to win. But,
that was just a curveball. I'm sorry I threw that at you. But while we were thinking about it, I was noodling it around. I'm like, what if he just said, because I've got another friend of mine who's just gone through a bit of a roller coaster health-wise. And on the other side, the priorities shifted in a way that was like, you know what? I don't need to work this hard.
God, that's
And I looked at her
amazing.
and I'm like, good on you, soak up life. You got plenty.
Yes.
So
I would say that Horgan, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a chance he'd just still stay if he's feeling good. And then
yeah,
immediately after the next election, then call a leadership race. So he get him into the next
don't
4
don't take me
years.
wrong. I'm not showing John Horgan the door. I'm just
No. Hey,
going
well, I'm
through.
just the
He's been
liberal
through a
shareholder
lot.
leaves. I think that just,
Right.
you think about
Brad
politicians are usually
West, eh?
terrible at leaving on a high. They're really terrible. That's why I left politics. No,
I really
before I got
wish you'd
hated.
get back into it.
No, it's
George-Affleck for Premier.
yeah. No, thanks.
I'll leave it on
The
that note.
yeah. Let's just move on and get out of here. And I gotta go do CKNW now. So I gotta go be
Right.
Jazz Joe Hall for the afternoon, not the premier of the province. Thanks very much.
Call me later. Call me.
Okay, bye.